Greetings and welcome. We are in Sophomore English now, and our objective for the hour is to talk a little bit about the great Sophoclean tragedy, Antigone. Now, how to begin and where to go with this conversation? Antigone is a play that we call a part of a trilogy. The great Greek dramaticist Sophocles is very interested in human suffering and places it in Thebes. Now, we're familiar already, I think, from an earlier conversation about the dilemma for Oedipus, who kills his father, marries his mother, unbeknownst to him, has 4 children. The two daughters obviously factor very heavily here. The 2 sons are already now dead. They kill each other. Talk about your dysfunctional family, right? As the play opens, we'll do a plot summary real quickly, and then we'll talk about how do you talk about this play. As the play opens, Antigone will speak to her sister Ismene and say, "Have you heard what King Creon has willed as law?" The 2 brothers, Sophocles, Polynices, fought outside the walls of Thebes. Sophocles was identified with King Creon in the city of Thebes. Polynices was not, and therefore an edict has been made that Sophocles' body can be properly, formally buried. Why Polynices' body is not allowed to be buried. Several great anthropologists have pointed out, if you want to know a lot about a culture, look at how they marry each other, look at how they celebrate births, and look at how they say goodbye in deaths. Funerals tell us a lot about a culture. The Greeks have an interesting eschatological view, eschatology, of or relating to afterlife. The Greeks have an interesting eschatological view. Some of you, of course, know a little bit about it if you ever watched that Disney offering, Hercules. As people die, their souls go into the underworld. All souls go to Hades. Okay, so don't think of Hades as something Christian, St. Augustine later in terms of heaven, hell. For the Greeks, everybody goes to Hades, where they drink from a special river, the river Lethe. They forget their past life, and then they reincarnate. The Greek view is a cyclical view of afterlife. But the notion of how you get there to Hades is comprised in the proper burial. Without a proper burial, this is a bad thing. And Creon knows it, which is why he wills it. Antigone says to Ismene, we got to do something about this. We got to bury Polynices' body. Ismene's response is an interesting one. She says, look, here it is. It's simple. Men make the laws. Women obey the men who make the laws. Women don't break the law. That's a major no-no. I can't help you out here, sis. Antigone says, fine, I'll do it myself. Whoa. We learned something early on about Antigone. She is one strong woman. Written during the time we call the Greek epoch, it's quite remarkable that Antigone is pictured as such a strong, defiant, obdurate, stubborn woman who says, I really don't care what King Creon, even if he is my relative, has to say on the topic. I got to do what I got to do. Next we meet Creon. Creon is an interesting cat. He's a man of tremendous strength of will. He wants to be a solid king. His job, simple as a king. Unity, harmony. When we study Plato as seniors, we will look at Republic, the classic dialogue, where Plato talks about the importance of harmony, unity within the group. For Creon, it's simple. You want to have unity within the family, you want to have unity within the state, you make laws, and everybody keeps those laws. You have a single point of authority, that authority figure makes the rules. Everybody else obeys the rules. If you don't obey the rules, you get jacked. It's that simple. Toast on a post. No questions asked. Observation, concern.
Could I get Abby and Nicole?
They're on their way. The job then of Creon is very simple. I make a rule, everybody obeys the rule. What happens if the rule is violated? Well, that one's called death by stoning. Let me explain how that one works. one of the popular ways of executing in Greek history. You dug a hole. You put the person in the hole up to the person's shoulders. Professional rock throwers, stoners, pick up small rocks, not big ones, and they do not hit the head when they throw the rocks. You don't want the person to die. Not yet. The rock will hit the body, obviously bruising the body, fall into the hole. Slowly the hole will fill. Quite literally, you are buried to death with rocks coming off of your body. But you are still alive when the last of the rocks have been thrown and filled up the hole. Then, several men will pick up a large boulder, walk over, and drop it on top of your skull. And that's how you not only die, but you are conveniently as well buried immediately after you've been stoned to death. That is the punishment. That is the punishment that will be given to anyone who buries the body of Polynices. Observation.
So if you're in a Greek city and there's a bunch of rocks everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Good one. That's right. Well done, Mr. DeBolt. Of course, there's a special stoning ground where this kind of work would happen. And, you know, of course, that kind of stoning is going to give way to a different kind of the use of the word stoning later. We'll talk maybe more about that later. The continuation of our story. Antigone's like, dude, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Well, the next part of our story is Creon is interrupted by being told, dude, it happened. Somebody came and buried the body. Creon is like to the messenger, I'm going to kill you if you don't find out who did it. Creon is in a very difficult spot. Shall we say it out loud now? No kidding. A few years ago, I'm giving this lecture to a group of sophomores. We have a student in our class who is notorious, how does one say it gently, who is notorious for making waves in the front office and being called there, where he gets to enjoying conversations with administration. He's familiar with the principal's office. Can we just leave it at that? That student was not here for the beginning of my lecture on Antigone, and I'm talking about Antigone, when all of a sudden he comes through the door, slams my door. It was an older door that didn't have that, thing to slams the door, slams his books down on his table, and shouts out a profanity right in the middle of my lecture. As per rules in room 303, that we all show respect to one another, I simply paused and made a observation question to him in the form of a look. Like, dude, what is going on? As in, would you like to talk about it? 303, sometimes quasi-confessional. And he takes the bait and immediately says something about that sorry scumbag of an assistant principal who has apparently jacked him again. To which I simply respond to the rest of the group, well, that's okay, because here in a few days, you'll be the assistant principal, and you'll get to find out what that feels like. Now he's ready to have a fight with me. I will never be an assistant. I said, no, you don't understand. It's going to happen in just a few days, whether you want it to happen to or not. You get to be the assistant principal. And he's like, you're totally insane. I will never be. And I said, okay, follow it with me for a moment. This afternoon you walk home. I believe you walk by one of our local parks just around the corner. Is that right? He said, yeah, that's right. And I said, how about this? While you're walking home this afternoon, you look over there next to the swings, and you see a couple of fifth graders, and they are just wailing away on a third grader. And the little third grader's just like crying and stuff, and they're just wailing on this kid. Now you got a choice. You either just keep walking because it ain't got nothing to do with you, or you decide you're going to jack up a couple of fifth graders for messing around on a third grader, so you walk up. Let's just say you decide to second. He goes, yeah, that's what I do. I said, I know that's true about you. Because he hates unfairness with a passion. He hates it. That's why he's so mad at the assistant principal. So I say, so you walk up to these fifth graders and you say, hey, knock it off. You don't get to wail on a third grader. What's wrong with you? Knock it off. And one of those fifth graders looks back at you and says, you gonna make me stop? And hits him one more time, hits the third grader. I said, at that moment, you just became the assistant principal. You make a rule, you say, you break the rule, I'm jacking you, and the 5th grader does it. Now what do? Do you think it's possible, once in the history of the world, that a parent made a rule, an edict, a law, and said, if you do it, you get in serious trouble, and the kid turns around and says, I wonder if she really means it. I wonder if he's for real. And the kid went out and did it, and then sat back and waited for the parent. And in the moment the kid broke the rule, the parent went, oh, crap. That was a dumb rule. But here's the problem. Once you've made the rule and the rule gets broken, as an adult, as an assistant principal, you got to do something. Because if you go, I know I made the rule, and I know it was like a rule, and I know I said there was going to be like this punishment thing if you broke the rule, but here's the thing, now that I look at it, it's kind of a dumb rule, and so I'm going to go ahead and just say, that's okay that you broke that rule, that ain't no big thing. Any sophomore in high school knows, no, that ain't the way it works. Because the kid will immediately smell out weakness the way sharks can find blood, and the next time the parent says, don't do X or Y will happen, the kid will say, yeah, I already have played this game. I get it. I do X and Y never happens to me. You got to keep the rule even though you know the rule is a dumb rule. Do you think that's ever happened in the history of parenting? Some of us will say at 3B in our notes, yeah, I've lived that rule before and I know it. But that's okay, because here pretty soon, you get to be the assistant principal, whether you like it or not. Let's talk about Creon. Creon makes the rule. Into the court comes Antigone. The minute he looks at her, he has to know in his mind, oh, crap. He made a promise to Antigone's daddy. You leave the city of Thebes, blind old Oedipus, you leave the city of Thebes, I'll make sure and take care of your kiddos. Whoops. Now all of a sudden here's Antigone. What does he do? Does he say, that making of that rule about not burying the body of Polynices, dumb rule, I'm just going to pretend like I didn't make it. Nope. Christoph says, nope, that ain't the way it works in power authority. Once you make the rule, you got to stick with it, even if you don't really believe it. You got to. Creon's stuck. His first question to Antigone is like, you didn't really do this. And she's like, yeah, I did it. What are you going to do to me? It's like, what do you mean I'm going to do to you? You already know what's going to happen to you. You're going to get jacked. Good, let's do it. He doesn't like the fact he can't intimidate her. She's a woman. He can't intimidate her. He didn't like this fact. So he says, I think I know the way to get to her. Let's bring in our sister Ismene. I'm sure she was involved. Ismene wasn't involved. And pretty quickly Creon can figure out Ismene wasn't involved. Interestingly, Ismene now wants to be involved. Antigone starts to look a lot like Daddy Oedipus at this point. Her pride is unbelievable. She says to her sister, no, you don't get to participate. I asked for your help. You said no. Now you don't get to participate. I'm going to do this all by myself. I get to die all by myself. Go away. Ismene's like, why would you treat your sister so badly? If you die, now I'm completely alone in the world. I might as well die with you. Let me at least die with you. Antigone, no. You weren't involved. You didn't help me. You didn't want to take care of my bro. That means you're no longer my sister. Go away. There are people who watch this play that say, that's rather harsh of Antigone. She has a stubborn streak, the chorus will say, that reminds us a lot of Daddy Oedipus. In the meantime, oh yeah, Antigone's got a guy. It just so happens that the guy, Haemon, is the son of the king. Now, for those of you who are getting into this, whoa, aren't they kind of interrelated with inbreeding or something? Just don't go there, okay? Yes, it's true. It's true. Antigone and Haemon, on some level, obviously are related. Hello, Oedipus slept with his mom and had 4 children with her, okay? So obviously, yeah. Because remember, Creon and Jacusta are brother-sister. That's the relationship on that side. We won't get into it.
So is uncle?
What did I just say, Myers? We're not going to get into it, right? Okay, we're going to stop. We're going to stop there. So Antigone is going to be led off to die. Creon decides, okay, we won't kill Ismene, but we will kill Antigone. You're going to stone Antigone? No, 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 you're right, Creon says. We got to come up with a more humane way to get rid of her. I know, we'll lock her away in a cave and let her die there. We'll give a little bit of water and food, so that way we can't be held responsible. Really? So we're going to board up the cave and we're just going to let her starve to death, as if somehow that's more humane than dropping a rock on her head. Into the room comes Haemon, in one of the most compelling moments in Greek tragedy. This, for some of my students, is a tragic moment that they have lived through. Literally lived through. Where they watched, for example, their father make the rule, and their brother say, dumb idea. Haemon walks in and says, I love you, Dad, but you're not using your brain on this one. Creon's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're the kid in this dynamic. You don't get to talk to me that way. Haemon says, you're not listening to me. This ain't got nothing to do with my age. This has got to do with your stupidity. You better hear what I'm saying. This is a dumb idea. You kill Antigone, and that's a bad idea, on every count. Creon's like, oh, wait a minute. I know why you're coming in. You're in love with the woman. You're engaged to be married to her. Guess what? Marriage is off. Haemon, at this moment, will look at his father and say, you touch my girl, we never talk again. And it's at that moment that a lot of my students have been there in that living room when the dad says, you don't buy what I'm selling, you leave, you're never coming back. And there's mom standing there. What does she do? Does she get involved? Does she try and change things? Of course, here's the problem. When the son turns around and walks out of the room, it's done. It's done. Of course, it will remind us of what, oh yeah, Shakespeare was a student of Sophocles, loved his work. You'll remember, it is right, true, in Romeo and Juliet. Man, I wish I could have lectured it for you. You will remember that Lord Capulet says to his daughter Juliet, you either marry the boy, Paris, or it's over. You ain't coming back in my house. Juliet's aware Daddy means it. The problem for Creon is he's blown up. And when Haemon leaves, it's done. Enter Tiresias. Sophocles, nasty irony as a writer. Enter Tiresias. Now, who is Tiresias? Well, he's an interesting cat. We're going to call him a prophet. Interestingly, he's blind. Right? He's blind. But he can see. That is to say, he can see both the past as well as the future. Technically, Tiresias is an interesting guy because I told you that when you die, you go down into the underworld and you drink from the river Lethe and you forget all your past life and then you come back. Tiresias gets to come back without drinking from the river Lethe. Are you ready for this? He's lived both the life of a man and the life of a woman, and he remembers those lives. So in Greek mythology, Tiresias is special because he actually knows what it's like to be both a man and a woman. See, for Greeks, they will say about men, try as they might, they'll never understand women because they can't. And no matter how hard a woman tries to understand a man, she'll always get one or two things wrong. Most everything else is right. Well, I'll leave it at that. But Tiresias knows everything about both. And Tiresias walks in and he says, you're an idiot. To Creon, you're an idiot. Creon's like, whoa, 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 you don't get to talk to me that way. And Tiresias says, no, you don't understand. We do this thing where we put these birds' guts up on fire, and the way that it cracks tells me stuff. I can tell by the hearing of, and you just jacked up. What are you doing? You need to take care of your business. Number one, you need to bury the body of Polynices. Number two, you need to take care of this thing with Antigone. Creon at first tries to claim Tiresias is like getting paid money under the table, and that's why he showed up. And Tiresias is like, are you really that stupid? Do you honestly think I want your money? Dude, I'm a blind prophet guy. It's not like I need money. I'm telling you, it's about to happen, and that ain't the beginning of it. Creon's like, what are you talking about? Oh no, before the end of the day, there are going to be a number of people dead, and it's all going to be because of you and your stubborn pride. See ya. And he turns out, walks out. Creon at that moment goes, maybe I'm remiss here. I better go and fix the problem. Ironic, dark irony. He goes and he buries the body of Polynices first, so that by the time he gets to the Antigone problem, we don't get to see this, we get to hear this. Sophocles loves the invention of having the messenger come on stage and to report what happens. And that's what he does. And when he comes on stage, it's brutal. He says, yeah, we took care of Polynices' body and buried him appropriately. And then we took care of we showed up at the cave where Antigone goes. We get to the cave and we hear this screaming voice, moaning, screaming in anguish voice. We're like, whoa, what's up with that? Then we see that the rock has been moved from the front of the cave. We go inside. Antigone has hung herself. She's dead. She didn't want to die in a cave all alone, so she killed herself outright. As she was breathing her last breath, Haemon, her guy, showed up. And he's holding onto her legs, trying to get her body to come back to life, when Daddy walks through the cave door. Creon says to Haemon, his boy, get away from her. What are you doing? Haemon is so enraged that he turns, draws his sword on his own father and wants to kill his own dad. Creon's a better fighter. Haemon realizes he isn't going to be able to stab his own father. He takes the sword. He falls on his own sword. We're told Haemon commits suicide. For those of you who say, geez, this does start to sound a little like R&J, Romeo and Juliet. Shakespeare, as I said, was a student of Sophocles. But we're not done. While the messenger is telling this story out loud, Creon's wife walks out, Haemon's mama, and says, whoa, what did I just hear? She goes off stage. She kills herself. Again, we got bodies falling all over the place by the end of this play. The most tragic scene of the play happens at the very end, when Creon walks on stage with the body of his dead son, Haemon, and he realizes he's a ruined man. There's no coming back from this. There's no bringing back to life his wife, or Antigone, or of course his son who he loves deeply, Haemon. And of course, he's lost all credibility in Thebes. The play will end with a suggestion that Creon might actually go out and commit suicide himself, but he doesn't actually say that. He just kind of... What is clear is that this amazing man at the beginning of the play is a broken man by the end of the play. He's ruined. He's ruined. There's no coming back from this. All right, our plot line is done. Now, what are we going to say about a play like this? I mean, as one sophomore said to me, really? Why do we got to read such terribly depressing stuff? Sophocles has an answer. It's called Welcome to Life. When you're young, you have a tendency to think everything is bright and shiny. Sophocles says, let me tell you what life really is. Life is pain. Life is suffering. Now, some of that suffering is given to us from outside of our control. You're walking down the street and somebody pulls up onto the sidewalk in a busted up old truck and about runs over you. That you have no control over, right? Okay, and you get bummed, and that's just the way that it is, okay? That's one kind of pain. But there's a second kind of pain, and that's the pain we seem to choose. The pain that we seem to run towards, like, yippee, yippee. Of course, one of those kinds of pains we already learned in Shakespeare's R&J, and that's called love, isn't it? Why do they call it falling in love? Why don't they call it rising in love? If, for example, you get up and walk to the back of the room and you trip and fall right on your face, most of us may be laughing behind your back, but most of us will feel some pity for you and say, oh, I'm sorry you experienced that pain by falling. Why do we call it falling in love, like when we go, yay, I get to fall in love? Sophocles says, seems as if the human condition is one of enjoying the suffering, the pain that is our life. We run at it the way moths like to go towards the light, even though they're told in Bug's Life not to, right? They fly right into the flame, right? Right? They go right at it, don't they? Whether they want to or not. That's just kind of the way humans are. We're not done. This is, of course, a play that seems to want to investigate the dynamics between youth and old age. Antigone, young. Creon, old. Haemon, young. Creon, old. Creon, young. Tiresias, old. And in each case, the old do certain things that have a response from the young, and the young do certain things that have a response from the old. But one of the intriguing things is that they always seem to be talking past each other. Like they don't completely understand each other. Like it's generational. As Margaret Mead said in her classic essay in 1975, Culture and Commitment, it's all about the generation gap. The what? Yeah, she said. In 1975, she said, by the time the century ends, young people will talk to their grandparents, and their grandparents won't understand what they're saying. She said, grandparents will listen in 2013 to the music that their grandkids listen to, and they won't understand some of the words. They won't get it. They won't get their movies. They won't get their humor. The kids will be laughing, and the grandparents will be like, funny? This isn't funny. What's funny about this? That's Margaret Mead's prediction in 75. Of course, it kind of came true, didn't it? The generation gap is foundational to understanding this play. Antigone says, right is on my side. Creon says, you don't get it. But then, we kind of can relate to this. We're high school sophomores. If some sixth grader were to walk up to you this afternoon and say, sit down, we need to talk, I need to tell you some things about life. Right. What's Goda just said? And whoa. You don't understand. I'm the high school sophomore. You're the little sixth grader. You need to sit down right now or I'm going to take care of it. See, our instincts are that way because we're old. But when we're sophomores this evening and we say to our ma, please listen to me. You're not listening to me. I'm trying to talk to you and you're looking at me like I'm some kid. See? It's funny how it works out that way, huh? A sixth grader says, I need you to listen. Say, our immediate instincts are, no. You don't get it. I'm the old, you're the young. I tell you, you don't tell me. At what point will you ever be able to speak to somebody older than you and actually say, I need you to hear me. What you're saying is a stupid idea. And they go, oh, sixth grader, I'm a sophomore. I love it when you tell me I'm an idiot. Tell me more. It's not the way it works. And yet, in the play, Antigone's right to the degree that she says to Creon, this isn't really what the gods want. We're not done. We've got the issues as well of familial dynamics. You've got fathers and sons. You've got tension between the two. Haman tries to tell his daddy this is a bad idea. His father cannot hear what he has to say. He makes gross jokes like there's plenty of fields to plow. It's a double entendre with the sexual connotations all there. Creon is saying to his son, if we gotta go down, let's go down, but not by a woman. Don't let a woman. Oh yeah, that takes us to another observation about this play. It is a gender-driven play, isn't it? Now, to be fair, Greek audiences did not identify with Antigone. She was a woman, first of all, and she broke the law. They really identified with the true protagonist of the play, Creon, who makes the rule and then has to enforce the rule and in the process loses everything. But modern audiences love this play because you have a very strong woman in Antigone who is going to say to a male, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that I can't have a brain and make a decision on my own. Ismene doesn't understand this. She's like, no, we're women. We're supposed to do what men tell us to do. Female readers and viewers of this play today say, what is wrong with you? Just because a guy has a certain kind of genitalia doesn't mean he gets to tell women what to do. And yet, yesterday alone, how do you account for the fact so many women were abused by men and then returned back to them that night?
Just a reminder, all
interesting question.
Meet in the commons.
There you go, an introduction to Antigone.
Have a short meeting.
See you back tomorrow.